Welcome back to another No BS review, where there will be no filler or BS of any kind, just the information you want to know about this vehicle. Thank you to my members for helping support this content. On today's installment, we'll be looking at the Type 74G, a Rank 6 battle rating 9.3 premium main battle tank in the Japanese tech tree. This vehicle can be purchased in-game for 8,730 Golden Eagles. Compared to the E and F versions in the tech tree, this variant gets side skirts, thermals, and rather interestingly, a laser warning receiver. The Type 74G does not feature space or composite armor of any kind, and instead relies on just conventional RHA on the hull and a cast turret. The hull armor is incredibly thin, with a very large driver's port weak spot, which is so thin that basically anything bigger than a 14.5 could easily pen you from the front. The turret being as thick as it is, it can stop some glancing shots or shots to the breach area. Protection against shape charges is basically going to be identical. Side protection follows a similar trend, with the hull armor being paper thin and the turret being potentially a bit trolly. Basically, if you're shot in this thing and survive, you're already cheating death at that point. For its main round, the Type 74G gets Type 93 APFSDS with a maximum flat pen of 405mm and a velocity just a hair above 1500 meters per second. This is a pretty solid round for the BR, however, this vehicle has some peculiarities when it comes to its gun handling. You see, the Type 74 family of tanks features hydropneumatic suspension, which means that you can adjust the suspension to tilt the entire tank. You will need to set up a separate series of control binds to make sure this works, by the way. The problem is, this left the designers feeling comfortable giving this thing only 6 degrees of gun depression and 9 degrees of gun elevation, meaning this thing does extremely poorly on uneven terrain. The hydropneumatic suspension can be very helpful if you have time to sit in safety and adjust it to whatever setting you need, but you cannot really do this on the fly, and otherwise you don't really get much benefit from this design choice. Also, it only gets a fixed 8x optic zoom, which is going to be a little bit troublesome if you want to really use this thing to snipe, though it does at least get thermals, which is helpful. In terms of mobility, the Type 74 isn't especially notable, with its maximum forward and reverse speed being a bit below average for a Western MBT around this BR. It does at least feature a solid power to weight ratio though. Japan unfortunately doesn't get an especially stacked lineup at this BR at the moment, with the Type 16P not really complementing the Type 74 very well, and the Type 93 being an alright SPAA, but not particularly versatile. In terms of CAS, you do have the new TIE Alpha Jet, which can honestly be quite a terror if left unchecked, but as soon as the enemy starts spawning Stingers and radar-guided proxy fuse SPAAs, things are not going to go super well for you. Overall, the lineup for this thing is pretty mid. When the Type 74G is able to properly use its hydropneumatic suspension, park behind cover, and engage in long-range gunnery duels with the enemy team, it can be quite effective, with its thermals and laser warning system offering quite good situational awareness compared to many comparable vehicles. Problem is, this rarely happens, and in most other situations, the Type 74 just doesn't have the speed, gun handling, or survivability to be that competitive. It's not fast enough to be a good flanker, and not nearly survivable enough to be any kind of brawler, and while its firepower is quite good, it's not significantly better than average for the BR. I think that it will further reinforce this point to compare the Type 74G to several other 9.3 vehicles which I subjectively find myself encountering a lot. What I think stands out here the most is just that not much stands out. In terms of firepower, the Type 74 is just on par with everything else. It's marginally better protected than the Leopard and some other similar vehicles, but not by much, and it's also hamstrung by an unusually low max forward speed. Overall, the Type 74G feels very much like a designed by committee sort of vehicle. It has a lot of on their own, very innovative and interesting features, but they don't really come together to offer you any sort of unique strength, and instead just feel like novelties. What's perhaps even worse though is the fact that the Tech Tree E and F versions of the Type 74, which are free for everyone, retain probably the most useful trait of this vehicle, the laser rangefinder and strong Type 93 dart round, while also sitting at a lower BR of 9.0. For that reason, combined with everything I've already talked about, I give this vehicle a 4 out of 10. On its own, I'd give it maybe a 6 or a 7, but The fact that you're essentially just getting a vehicle that you could play for free but stuck at a higher battle rating makes this a uniquely bad option in my opinion. I would recommend paying just a bit more and buying the Type 90B Fuji instead. That vehicle is far more competitive for its BR and generally just more fun to play. That's going to wrap it up for this one, guys. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the playlist in the description for more vehicle reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one.